Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And today we're going to talk about some players that we are avoiding right now at their current price, in auction drafts. Because this could be a little different actually than ADP. Some of these guys probably are both for me, but I actually do think there's a difference in avoiding certain players for certain prices in auction. And I actually I think I got some examples of why you might want to avoid a certain guy and what you can do if you do avoid him, where you can spend that money more wisely. So let's jump into this thing, Jeff. We got three players each we're going to talk about that we're going to be avoiding right now based on their current pricing. Who do you got number three?
Number three is going to be Mike Williams for me. I need to see him actually make the jump. Do I like the talent? Yeah. Is he in a good offense? All of that is true, but it feels like, and if you could in a snake draft get him, and I would be okay with it because I think he could fall to a place where that value and everyone around him, it kind of makes sense to take that risk. But if I'm throwing money at him, I think I would rather go other places. And right now, currently, he's graded at Fantasy Pros at $20, ESPN $18. Doesn't sound like an immense amount of money, but at the same time, Keenan Allen, his teammate, or someone else, you could get definitely in that price range. And he tends to have I found. It might not be on the average, but I do find that every once in a while, like people will really believe in him and they will go after him very, very hard. So he's going above asking price maybe it doesn't come out in the aggregate, but it definitely shows up every once in a while, which makes it even more dangerous because he does have that really exciting, athletic ability. So Mike Williams just is never on any of my teams. I don't reach to get him. And I've kind of just been off that bandwagon. I'm okay if I miss out on him because I just don't think the price is quite worth it.
Yep. So Mike Williams is on my list too. So I'll put him number three. So we have the same. And let's say you give a $20 price tag, right? This is one of my reasons. You give Mike Williams a $20 price tag. Would you rather have Mike Williams at $20 or would you rather have the combination of like Marquise Brown, Rashad Bateman, and Kadarius Toney, which you honestly, based on current ESPN values, you could get those three players for what you're paying just for Mike Williams. Right now, Marquise Brown's going for $11 or $12. Let's say 12. Bateman's going for $3, but let's even jump it to $4 or $5. You're still maybe at, $16 there, maybe 16, 17. Then Tony's going for an average of $2. You go up to like 3, 4. You're getting essentially Marquise Brown, Rashad Bateman, and Kadarius Toney for the same price you're getting Mike Williams. I would much rather have the other three.
I mean, you had me at Marquise Brown. Even if I had to pay the same amount, I think that those two, their value should flip-flop, honestly. So, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and it's huge. Like, I'd much rather have those combinations because to me, Mike Williams, you're getting one guy that hopefully puts a full season together. But we've talked about this. He's had 5 games. That's it. And the other ones, you're getting maybe Marquise Brown, you're getting Bateman, you're getting Toney. You only need one of those three to hit. And with Mike Williams, you need one. You need him. You need to be 100% on that pick. Those other ones, you only need to be 33%. So just giving yourself more options. I like that. I like going the other way. I did have some people not happy with my Mike Williams. I did post some of my players earlier on Instagram today. Somebody came out and said Mike Williams is going to lead the NFL in receiving touchdowns. So, but I asked, well, what happened in week 6 through 18 last year where he only had 3 touchdowns? What's changed? What's different? Same coaching staff, same quarterback, same teammates. What's different? I mean, sure, he could. He has the ability. He has the physical. He's talented enough to do it. But why are we so sure that? Why are we basing the 5-game sample over the 12-game sample? That's what I don't understand. And that seems to be what's happening out there. It's the 5-game sample is what everyone's looking at.
And those players actually freak me out even more. The ones that you're kind of like, Tyreek Hill tends to be one, but he's supremely more talented than Mike Williams. He's shown that he could do it like game in, game out, but once again, you get him because you're like, okay, half the games are going to be good, but I don't know what half they're going to be. I'm playing him every time. Mike Williams is kind of like you said, you get him for 5, and those 5 are going to be spectacular. But you could throw in some like Hunter Renfrow last year, and you would be much more happy over the course of a year. So I don't know.
Well, and that's why in this, it's more of a, there's more question marks with Mike Williams, and maybe, like you said, maybe in a snake draft it plays out where he's going, it makes sense to get him. But in an auction, you have other options. So
yeah,
exactly. All right, so he's my 3, your 3. Let's go number 2, Jeff. Who's your number 2?
Number 2 for me is going to be Deebo. I know I could be alone on this one. There's a lot of things that point to giant regression. And yeah, he is, considered the 4th best wide receiver in most, depending on where you're looking. Currently, he's going either $40 on Fantasy Pros or $45 on ESPN. Look, I mean, it's a giant price tag, right? You're paying for a top 5 wide receiver. I would much rather take pretty much anyone else in the top 7. I would rather put that money towards one of those. And if I'm willing to do that, then there never comes a time where I'm going to spend money on Deebo, because even if I'm getting 2 of those guys in one of my strategies, I'm not going towards him. I think there's other guys that have more upside. Last year he was phenomenal, but he's already talking about how he doesn't want to be considered like being used as a running back. He was insanely deadly that way. It was a kind of an ugly offseason. You're trading quarterbacks. You have Trey Lance, which a lot of people like, but they like him because he's a rushing quarterback. Does that help Deebo? I don't think it does. Ayuk was great in the second half of the season, so he might get more looks. Kittle is still there. I just don't like where it's going for him. Will he still probably be a good wide receiver? Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to fall off a cliff, but I mean, maybe a tiny one compared to where he was, because he just lit the league on fire. I just don't see me getting my money back. Once again, talking about like the ROI on a player. Is he a good player? Yes. Will I get my money back? No. So let me put my money somewhere else where I think you can really get a return on investment. And if you're looking at, I mean, I could even go further than this, but the top 7 just make sense, right? Like Cooper Kupp probably falling down a ways, but not nearly as much as Deebo, I think. Jamar Chase and Jefferson are, money in the bank as far as I'm considered. Stephon Diggs, I think, is a lot safer. Devontae Adams is safer. And then CeeDee Lamb, I think you can get a huge ROI on him because he's number 7 and going for $27. I would much rather have him than Deebo. I just can't spend that kind of money on him.
I've had a hard time forming an opinion on Deebo. I like Deebo. I think he's going to be good. But again, is the price tag worth it? That's the thing I can't wrap my head around right now. And I'm keeping him in a league, in one of our keeper leagues, for $10. I love that. That's amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not
great.
telling you that he's going to be terrible.
I feel great
without
there.
A doubt. Don't twist it around.
Yeah, so I love that. And so this is in a I don't like these players list. That's not what this is. And I think that's where people get confused sometimes. It's just like with Deebo, we saw it from him. We had big numbers, but it's just such an unconventional way that he did it that when that happens, I just like, okay, I have to see more. I have to see more before I want to spend the money. Like, I would rather him and Stephon Diggs are going for relatively the same price a lot of places. I mean, I know Diggs has done it multiple times on multiple teams, and I just feel safer about it. I'm not saying, I mean, Deebo could very easily be better. It could happen. I'm with you. I didn't put him on my list, but I'm not sure what to think there, and I don't know what the quarterback's going to do. That's another part. But I'm also a big Brandon Ayuk fan. So a big Ayuk fan. And to be honest, Jeff, this is for a later show, but I'm coming around on Lance, but not as a QB1 if you can get him as your 2. So
I mean, sure, you go for the upside. I like how you put that out there. It's like baiting me. Like, I want to talk about that now, but
we'll do that. Another show.
I'm much more of a believer in like Trevor Lawrence being able to make a huge step forward rather than Trey Lance on his first year being quarterback being worthwhile.
Yeah, but Ayuk's definitely going up my draft boards. But yeah, Deebo, I'm not going to put him on the list yet, but I don't ever spend for him. I haven't yet, and I just don't see a scenario where I do. So, yeah, not seeing it. All right.
Who is your number 2 then?
My number 2. Let's go here. All right, my number 2, David Montgomery. So, David Montgomery if you're looking at ESPN, I think he's going for about $24 right now. Let's see here. 23.7 is $24. And my biggest reasoning is, first off, I don't want to spend that on David Montgomery. And why spend $24 on David Montgomery when you can spend $24 and get Nick Chubb? I mean, Nick Chubb and David Montgomery are going for the same price. Does that make any sense to you, Jeff? It doesn't to me.
No,
it does not to me at all. Or you could go get Travis Etienne for $8, and shoot, Etienne and Dobbins combined are only $2 more than what David Montgomery is going for alone. I'm going to take Dobbins and Etienne all day long. And plus, I just don't believe in David Montgomery. I think he's a very average running back. And every time I post something about David Montgomery, people are always like, "Oh, it's Monty season this year and all this different stuff." Like, okay, what in the past? He's had one good stretch at the end of 2020, I believe, where he was really good for a stretch. Yeah. He also played against the absolute worst run defenses of all time in that stretch, it felt like. And it was a very bad run defense schedule. And we could see it from a mile away. That was what's happening. I don't even know if he's the best running back on his team, if I'm truly being honest. I think Khalil Herbert's a good running back. When Herbert came in there, he was no different than Montgomery. Montgomery was not better than him in the opportunity. I don't love David Montgomery. I'm not spending $24 on David Montgomery ever. Not doing it. I'll go get all those other guys that are cheaper than him. I'll get Chubb for the 24. I'll go get, Breece Hall. I don't care. I'll take the chance there. I'll go get J.K. Dobbins. I'll go load up and get some other guys. Just not going to get David Montgomery. Not going to happen.
I agree with you. The one argument that I will give people is if you miss out, I can understand you paying for a running back is going to get the bulk of the carries because you need a player like that. I think, but that is that's kind of like a strategy if your strategy goes awry. And if I'm looking at his numbers from the past 3 years, which is all he's played, look, he gets a ton of carries, 242, 247, 225 last year, and he gets around 900. He got over 1,000 on 220. In 220, and then TDs, you're averaging 7. The upside for his, receiving game, the last 2 years has been okay. You get targeted 68 times, 51 times. You turn that into 3 touchdowns over 3 years. It's very, very limited. And on top of that, I'm looking at the yards per average, and it does not bode well. And even more so, I'm looking at his rookie year was 3.7. And I can kind of give him a pass. He's a rookie, he's a hammer. They used him that way. In 2020, 4.3. And all of a sudden you're kind of like, okay, maybe I missed something. Maybe there's more to his game than I thought. And then last year when, you put Fields in there, and I think it's going to be a lot of the same, they don't have to worry about the pass near as much. And his yards per average goes back down to 3.8. He will be 25. He'll be kind of in his prime. I think he'll still get the, over 200 carries. So you can look at that and say he's relatively safe, but I don't think there's a lot of upside. And I think that I just worry about Chicago as a team in general. So I do agree with you. I think that there's more negatives than positives. The only positive is the fact that he's going to get a lot of work.
Well, those yards and that yards per carry in 2020, it is all boosted by the end of season run, and actually just a couple games. It is 100%. All boosted by that. It's the Green Bay game where he had 11 carries for 103 yards. So his yards per carry was 9.3. It's the Houston game where he had 11 carries for 113. So he had 10.27. Like those 2 games alone that year boosted him up because he only had one other game over 5 yards per carry. Like that's not rare. He only had 3 games over 5 yards per carry, and 2 of them were 9 and 10, which were only off 11 carries. That's all boosted by the end. And he's just overall been a very, very average running back. Very average. And that's all he is. So I'm not going to go spend for that. But all right, let's go number 1 here.
Number 1. And this one would carry over, whether it be auction or whether it be, snake draft. I just haven't had him on my team, and that's going to be James Conner.
Jeff, I'll say my number 1 as well.
Okay. He's going for $36, 35 respectively about, um, it's not that I dislike James Conner as a football player and as a person. It seems he's like an incredibly likable person. I was cheering for him super hard last year, and I loved what I saw. It was unbelievable what he was able to accomplish after coming over from Pittsburgh and people thinking he was washed out. He goes to the Cardinals and he kind of like sneakily in a weird way just like lights it up as far as touchdowns go. But because his touchdown numbers were so wild and he was able to do it on such a regular basis, there is no way he can repeat that. It just, if it does, good on him. But I am, you have to be a little bit mathematical about it. You can't just believe in people just recreating things that just don't happen.
He knows how to find the end zone, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that. No, I mean, you're kind of like, I mean, he did 1 year, and he's not overly athletic in any way. I can talk about a lot of good things, but it's just not gonna recreate what he was able to do last year. And right now, you're pricing him not quite at that level, but you're pricing him in a place where it just ties my hands, and there's no way I can put him on my team for that price.
I mean, this one is like, this is true for auction and snake, like you said. He's going ahead of on ESPN in snake drafts. He's going ahead of Chubb, Saquon Barkley. I would honestly rather, and I'm not a big Cam Akers guy, but I would rather take a chance on Cam Akers than James Conner, 100%. Like, it truly is not even a decision for me. I can see this James Conner this season being like one we've seen. We've seen this season from players all the time. This happens so often where the guy the next year, like he does decent and then everyone just like assumes he's going to do well again and they boost him up and he does nothing. Like we knew Myles Gaskin last year was going to suck. We knew it. Just because he was good year before and everyone's boosted him up. Conner was good off just touchdowns. But this has happened so many times. I can see this being the James Conner year. Like you said, $36. I'll even go ESPN. He's at like 30. So let's even say $30. With that $30 on ESPN, you can turn around and you could go get Nick Chubb, probably Rashad Penny and Ramondre Stevenson, and to be honest, if I really truly went by their actual ESPN values, I don't think this is going to play out with some of these guys. I think like they're going to go up, but actual ESPN values today, James Conner is equivalent to Nick Chubb, Rashad Penny, Ken Walker, and Ramondre Stevenson combined. That to me is unreal. And I don't think it's going to even play. I would just say Nick Chubb over James Conner. This is that alone. Give me Nick Chubb for a few dollars cheaper, and I'll go get Ramondre Stevenson with that. I don't even have to get all the guys. I'm not spending $30+ on James Conner. If you spend $30+ on James Conner, you are going to lose your league this year. It's not going to happen. You're not going to win. Do not spend $30 on James Conner. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah, and I want to put this into perspective too of how unbelievably good he was in the red zone, because that is one of the reasons why people get really hyped on him, because he was phenomenal. He ranked he was 8th in the amount of attempts he got inside the 20-yard line for red zone attempts. The people that were, and he got 41. The people that are above him was Montgomery, Antonio Gibson, Damian Harris, Sony Michel, Delvin Cook, Austin Eckler, and Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor was head and shoulders above everyone. This is why he's number 1. He had 85 attempts. Number 2 is Austin Eckler with 46, and then it went down from there. James Conner had more touchdowns rushing within the 20-yard line than Jonathan Taylor did with 85 attempts. I know right there you're probably saying, then why wouldn't you want him on your team? Because you can't repeat that. He had 15 out of 41 carries. And you see, and within the 5-yard line, he had 16 carries, and he turned that into 10 touchdowns. He had 18 touchdowns throughout the year, 15 rushing, 3 receiving. That boosted him, and he was a top 5 running back because of that alone. But if you actually look at his rushing numbers, he had 3.7 yards per carry. He barely made it over 200 carries in general. The numbers, if those things don't change, the numbers will regress in a big, big way. And the guys above him that had like 43 carries, you're looking at more like 7 touchdowns. that you get rushing inside the 20. Sony Michel, I mean, he had 45 carries. He only turned it into 4. Delvin Cook only turned it into 5. So, that is the difference. And even Austin Eckler, who had 46, only 5 more carries within the 20, he had 12. So you can see how quickly those touchdown numbers just diminish. And then if you have less than 1,000 yards rushing, you're, all of a sudden you're just outside the top 10 easily.
Yep.
And you're probably, more of like a 20 guy or something like that. And
Yeah.
the price that they want for him, that's way too much. And that is us being very that's very optimistic still to say that he could be in a double-digit touchdown guy just because if they use him the same way, sure. But you will not get that return still.
No, it's just I don't see a scenario where James Conner's a league-winning running back again, or like on any teams. He's just the way where you got to draft him is just way too high. It's just not going to work for you. It's just not going to work. So just don't do it. That's pretty much it. Don't do it.
Do you have any guys you just want to mention that didn't make the top 3, but they were close, so you want to just throw them on there? I stopped at 3, but
I mean, I guess one of them I'm just totally off this year's Antonio Gibson. He's not going for a crazy price, but I'm just off on him everywhere. He's going for like $16. Just not going to do it. And to be 100% honest, Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's not okay. I'm a Lions fan. You see, like behind me, like if you look right up there, there's a Lions thing. I'm a Lions fan. I'm not a Amon-Ra St. Brown hater. I want him to be good. I just truly think the numbers were boosted in all these games that they were behind. They had no other options. He was boosted big time because of that. I just don't see him getting the same kind of targets and catches. Not saying and he's not even going for a big price, right? He's going for about $10. But instead of Amon-Ra St. Brown for $10, go give me Rashad Bateman and Kadarius Toney. Telling you, give me Bateman and Toney, and you can have St. Brown for the same price, and I can get Bateman and Toney for cheaper.
I mean, I do like those other guys, but I'm not off of. He hasn't been on any of my teams, so you're not wrong. But I do have to say there is a path for him because they're going to bring the rookie along slowly, and if DJ Chark isn't anything special, then he will still have a place in that offense. So I understand it, but I do think people hype him up a little bit, and I was a big fan of him last year, and he did exactly what I wanted him to do.
And I don't think he's gonna be bad. Like I just would rather if I'm in drafts in auction. That's why this is more auction, right? Because you can still see a scenario in Snake where it makes sense to draft it. So I'm not going to say not to. But if you're in auction, if I can go get Rashad Bateman and I can get Kadarius Toney and somebody else even on top of it, I don't even know who that would be. There's a bunch of guys. I would rather do that. Definitely would rather do that.
Actually, I will say there's 2 guys that I just am not willing to pay for. 2 more guys, I would say. And then I want to get your opinion on one more before we close it out. But Cam Akers, completely, I'm not going to pay for the guy. I think that one's a big mistake. He'd probably be number 4 on my list. He just scares me. I just think that there's way too much risk for him. And the other guy is Breece Hall. Once again, in a snake draft, I think that there's a possibility there because take the upside guy, but he's going for 22 in like ESPN leagues. I'm not spending $22 on him when I can get Etienne for 10.
Yeah, not doing it.
Not going to happen. And if you have to get him instead of putting that money towards a higher up running back, I think you just probably did the draft a little bit wrong.
Yep.
But that's my personal opinion on him, but why he didn't show up either. And the one I do want to, we haven't talked about him a lot at all, but I would like to know your opinion on Josh Jacobs. He's going for $20, but he's
I don't want to spend that.
Talking about.
I can definitely see him losing the job, or just being like a 3-headed committee there. With Kenyon Drake, right, still there, and then the rookie White, right? What's his name? Why can't I think of his name?
Rashad? No.
Zamir White, right?
Yeah.
So I can see it being a three-headed committee there for sure, 100%. So I'm not spending money. No, I'm just. This just has bad news written all over it for me. Josh Jacobs has bad news written all over it for me. James Conner has the same feel. Those 2 have that same feel to me, and David Montgomery does to me too. Those are 3 guys I don't want to touch. And Antonio Gibson, there's 4. They got more.
Yeah.
And so I got more. Even I would say Miles Sanders. He feels like that, but he's actually cheap. So
Yeah, I mean his 9 on ESPN.
He's cheap, so there's nothing there. But
if you like his talent and you want to take a shot at him, whatever.
Jacobs, Gibson, Montgomery, Connor. No, just don't give me any part of those guys this year. Not gonna do you any good. And don't even spend a penny on Cordero Patterson. He's going for 6. That's way too much. The guy's gonna do nothing. Sorry.
He might be useful in the beginning of the year.
Could be, but all right, there we go. Players we're avoiding. So send your hate our way. That's fine. Again, we don't hate these players. Well, don't really like James Conner, to be honest. I don't think he's that good. But the most of them, I don't really hate these guys. It's just I don't like where they're going. I'm not going to spend for them. So there we go. That'll do it for today. Talk to you guys next time.